After securing a second term at the ANC's National Conference in December and in fact strengthening his hand, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is preparing for the party's January the 8th statement. Generally, this statement outlines the priorities of the party for the year, but the conference still continues. In a sense, it was adjourned to provincial hybrid sessions, and those will restart on the 5th of January. That's because Policy Commission reports and resolutions still need to be adopted. So that now, of course, forming part of the lead up to the January the 8th statement. The party starts the new year divided, with predictions that it will gain less than 40% of the vote in elections next year in 2024. Well, political analyst and former Unionist Dr. Ebrahim Harvey says we shouldn't dread a coalition government at a national level following the polls next year. He joins us now. Doctor, thank you for being with us as always. So you are predicting a coalition. Looking at the ANC's own prediction, that looks pretty clear. But how do you think it'll look in 2024?
Yeah, thanks, Francis. Thanks for having me, and good afternoon to the viewers. No, for me, it's a foregone conclusion, and Ramaphosa's re-election a few weeks ago doesn't change, my understanding of what lies ahead in 2024. I'm absolutely certain that the ANC is going to drop below 50%. In fact, I estimate roughly around 40%. There's no doubt. You see, the column I penned in News 24, which is probably what made you decide to interview me around this matter, was that I believe that the DA in particular, and to a lesser extent the EFF, would act as a countervailing force to the endemic corruption that we've seen in the ANC government. We've seen the Zonal Commission of Inquiry expressing it very, very clearly, beyond any doubt what has been happening. So that column was really directed towards 2024, the likely, in fact, probable outcome. And the reason why, the dynamics of that three-party, you look at ANC, they still capture most of the votes, roughly 40%. And then the DA and EFF will, the other smaller parties will be very minor. Those are the big parties which I believe will constitute a coalition. For the first time, the ANC's never dropped below 50% in a national election, but I'm absolutely certain, and what happened at the National Conference in December in Nasrec, I mean, the disorganization and, despite this claim of renewal, we've seen the factionist rivalry and tensions. And what happened when Ramaphosa was delivering his political report, deliberate, late entry by Zuma, and you could see what happened, the heckling, the booing. No sitting president has ever faced, that kind of very, very antagonistic atmosphere in presentation of his political report. But it's a shape of things to come, and I believe that, forget about 2024, Ramaphosa is heading for a storm, I believe, from this month, and especially when Parliament resumes.
Yeah, and then we must talk about Paul Mashatile, who's now poised to take over if any efforts succeed to displace Ramaphosa. However, staying with the coalition, I mean, you go even further and say the country will be better for a coalition at national level. Have you not noticed the chaos, Doctor, at municipal levels where coalitions have been dominant?
No, I've written about it. I know about it very well. I think, however, the dynamics at national level would be somewhat different, perhaps more manageable will the tensions and the contradictions which always exist between parties in a coalition government. You must remember municipal level coalition government, that is where really the most burning issues around service delivery, very combustible over the past few years, expresses itself. So the dynamics of local government, much more even than provincial government and certainly national government, is very different. I think that not easily, but I certainly think that it's more doable and manageable, a coalition national government, than what you've seen happen in Joburg, Tshwane, and most coalition local governments in this country. There's just too many issues and huge policy discrepancies and differences between the parties that constitute a coalition government. I think national coalition government will be somewhat different and be less prone to those convulsions that we've seen at local government level.
We are expecting the January the 8th statement after the conference finally wraps up. I mean, you were talking about the chaos. It's unprecedented that they didn't even get to the resolutions in December. You said that the president, who will be delivering the January the 8th statement, faces a storm. Do you think he will survive until the elections next year in 24?
Yes, I think he'll survive. We have to see what the Concord, Francis, makes of. Remember that he appealed to the Concord. So whether he withdraws that application or it falls by the way, we don't know. But because he secured this re-election in December. But remember that the reason why I say that we're likely to have a very stormy opening of Parliament in February, early February, is because of how Parliament ended on that panel report. Remember, the ANC used its numbers to bludgeon its way through the opposition. The EFF, DA wanted a discussion and a debate about the panel report, you know. And the ANC would have had the opportunity to tear apart that report. But you can see they were never confident and comfortable, even of defending Ramaphosa in terms of the version that he gave the panel, you know. So the EFF in particular, I think, and the DA too, is going to pick up. Don't think that this matter of Pala is finished. They're very unhappy. They were denied also a secret ballot. There are lots of issues, burning issues. And I believe you're going to have a combustible first few weeks, you know, when Parliament reconvenes in February, no doubt at all. And even if the Concord, if that case drops by the wayside, we don't know what's going to happen, because Judge Krechler said that it might even be possible that the Concord decides that it doesn't fall within their jurisdiction. It's too highly politicized, and they decide not to hear that case. We don't know. But Parliament is bound to be very stormy within the first few weeks. I'm absolutely certain about that. The EFF and the DA is very unhappy with what happened in the panel's report. And you can see, I mean, they were totally not willing to even discuss and debate the report, you know, because the report noted that it's not saying that Ramaphosa is guilty of anything. It just believes that there's a prima facie case to answer. And so they were denied an opportunity really for the country to hear how the ANC responded to questions. You know, no doubt it would have been...
We've basically run out of time, so I'm sorry to cut you off, but I want to throw in one quick question. What about the predictions of a cabinet reshuffle? Because many of the current executive members are no longer in the NEC of the ANC, the highest body.
No, absolutely. I've written about it somewhere. Highly probable. Ramaphosa, I know how he operates, and he's unhappy that there were certain, you know, Dlamini Zuma, a number of people, you know, Lindiwe Sisulu, etc., who actually were against him, you know, at the conference. So I'm certain that those particular ministers, although he has to be very careful, you know, because he's likely to have a massive backlash at the NEC if the cabinet reshuffle leads to their exclusion. But I think he's likely to have a cabinet reshuffle that will exclude those ministers, you know, that were against him at Nasrec in December. I'm quite confident that reshuffle is going to occur along those lines.
All right, so no respite at the start of the year from stormy politics in South Africa. Thank you for your analysis, Dr. Ebrahim Harvey, political analyst and former Unionist.